What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's Joelle. You might notice something's a little different about me right now. This is the very first video that I'm filming with my short hair. I literally just got back from the hairdresser's like a few hours ago. So this is the very first time that you see me with the hair that I had when I was like a freshman in high school, except for it didn't look good then. It was really awkward and really short, and I was really awkward. But anyways, that's not the point of this video. From the title of this video, you can tell that I'm talking about the short film that I made this year, or this past term in college. I was taking a filmmaking class, so I wanted to share the short that I made for you guys. This video is obviously not itself the short. It is linked on Vimeo in the description, so you guys can check it out there. Vimeo is where I keep more of my like professional film animation related stuff, but I'd love if you just went on there, showed it some support. It's only like 4 minutes. It follows the relationship of two new freshman roommates in college, them navigating the terms of their relationship in very tight quarters, and you'll see immediately how I imposed some physical constraints on the story. So go check it out if you'd like to. And then next I will go into like detailing the process for making a short film. For me at least, filmmaking was really intimidating before going into this class. The last time I'd made shorts was in high school, so it'd been quite a while. It can be super intimidating just because you're putting yourself out there. It is like such a vulnerable thing to share that with the world and really be like autonomous over the whole world that you're creating in your films. Though I had experience in making shorts before, I was definitely not an expert by any means. I had a lot of fears coming into the class, and for those of you guys who are curious and just have never like looked at filmmaking or like even things like sketch writing for YouTube videos and stuff like that, what the process can look like in a more like structured manner, I want to break it down for you guys. Just so you're all aware, I will be like giving some spoilers, I guess, of like what happens in my short, which is why I recommend watching it first and then coming back to here as I go through our process. If you've not yet subscribed already, I would love if you do so. If you're interested in film and media, so am I, so we could be friends. But also just if you enjoy college related, beauty related things, that's all here. So join the J team where no one's a bench warmer, everyone's a playmaker, and yeah, turn on bell notifications so you're notified every time that I upload / sometimes live stream. But yes, so this was oddly the first production class I'd taken at Dartmouth. I'm a senior at Dartmouth studying economics and film. Yeah, I'd taken theory classes before and I'd taken animation classes before, so very different styles. The way that this class was structured was amazing. We had the most amazing professor, Samantha Davidson Green. I love her so much. She's an independent filmmaker and was visiting teacher at Dartmouth when I took the class. Hopefully she's offered tenure. If she's not offered tenure, I'm gonna be so mad. But basically, the process for making a short film, let's break it down. You start with ideas. We are put on crews of 5, and each student was responsible for writing and directing their own film, as well as crewing in all of the different positions on other people's films. So we each had an opportunity to try out being, you know, our director, the assistant director, the director of photography, the camera assistant / lighting person, gaffer, and then sound, which is obviously a very truncated form. A lot of, you know, professional film crews will have numerous people for all of these. There'll be a lot more emphasis on like costumes and production design and casting and all that, but we were stripping it down to just the fundamentals. So leading up to this, we studied what each of those jobs was. We looked at the lighting and the sound and the cinematography of lots of different films. Like, one of the best ways you can study is by like just enjoying other films, and also reading about them, which is really helpful in the discussing. Got to practice crewing on each other's films, but for our own, we started out by pitching ideas. We just brainstormed, brought in really rough ideas of just premises for shorts that we might want to make. We had a lot of constraints just because we only had 4 hours to shoot each of our films. We could shoot on either film, 16mm, or digital. I chose to shoot on digital just because it made more sense with my story, but 16mm is an awesome medium to shoot on also, and it's a lot of fun to work with that. But yeah, so after you pitch your ideas, you kind of have time to flush it out, get feedback, and also really exercise what it means to give like constructive feedback without trying to like direct someone else's film, and also to be able to receive feedback and filter it through what you want and what is good feedback versus what is someone just trying to impose their own ideas that are not necessarily like better or worse, you know? After that, we went to the writing process, and the writing process for me was the scariest part because I just have never been super confident in my writing. Screenwriting was just a whole nother ball game. Thankfully, my professor was so helpful in meeting with all of us one-on-one, and she had plenty of experience screenwriting for her own film and whatnot. Our scripts underwent many revisions, and I think that is one of the most vulnerable things ever, as it's really easy to take feedback personally, or you can fall in love with an idea too quickly and maybe it just doesn't have the space to be developed within the constraints of the assignment. There's a whole lot of factors, but it is really important to learn how to get feedback and take it well. And there are also just some principles of screenwriting that I didn't know before. Just the way that you balance physical direction. You may have specifics of what you want your characters to do, but also just leaving it open for your actors to respond organically and to remember, you know, the emotion and the intention and motivation behind something, versus just being like a robot and listening to all of your physical directions on the screenplay. After many revisions and going through with my professor a lot, that's when we went further into pre-production, which is one of the most important parts of filmmaking, because you'll realize like all of the issues that you run into on set largely can be fixed by having good pre-production, and that is stuff like doing your shot list, and you have storyboards, and you know exactly the order in which you're going to shoot each scene, and how long it should take, what props you need then, which costumes your actors are wearing, and you just plan it so that it can like be executed most efficiently when you only have 4 hours and a lot of moving parts and people. You need to get your crew on the same page and your actors on the same page, so that when you meet together for your actual shoot, it can just go through really smoothly. A lot of students had table readings and whatnot with their actors so they could rehearse and go over the way that they want things executed. I didn't do that because lack of time. I probably should have, but you know, it turns out okay in the end-ish. When we had all of our pre-production materials, you know, finessed, we went to the shooting, and that is such a fun but stressful time. And a lot of that, like I said, is kind of the results of all of your preparation beforehand, where you each crew member has your designated role, and you like stay in your lane, but also are down to like give feedback to your director or work with your director to make sure that you're getting the director's vision across, or perhaps getting something that the director didn't initially see but is better than what they had in mind, which can be kind of dangerous because the way that film crews work so efficiently is by people staying in their lane, not stepping on other people's toes. But then there's this balance between, you know, we're all peers and classmates trying to help each other learn, understanding that we're all learning. And that was really cool because you just get so close with the people that you're working with. So I definitely was able to learn like the strengths and weaknesses of my crew, and we were able to help each other balance out responsibilities. Definitely like one of the most important components of filmmaking is just like the synergy of your crew and being able to be honest with each other but also be super respectful at all times. There's so much trust involved with shooting a film, from production and filming, then we go into post, which is like editing and sound design and all of that. I already used Premiere quite a bit, so I didn't have as much of a learning curve. It was really interesting seeing what could be done in post versus during production. For example, like we shoot our sound separately from our video, and it needs to be paired with like the little clapper thing. And in that regard, since for my film you never see the mouths of my characters moving, I had a lot of freedom to play around with the timing of when lines were said, and if I liked one line in one recording and liked another line in another recording, I can mix and match as long as I seamlessly transitioned it. Also, you discover how much of sound and everything in film is fake because everything's just added in post-production. It's so funny how easy it is to watch a film and there's this whole comprehensive world and you're like, oh wow, awesome, yeah, like I'm in Whoville or wherever you are, and you realize that everything was added like so intentionally, because when you're shooting on set you really just want clean dialogue. For me, I had a lot of fun adding extraneous sounds. My premise was like a dorm building, so I added some like extra thumping from people unpacking boxes, or some chatter from a room like below. You can hear someone speaking. I also had a party scene in mind, and that was a ton of fun because I just added all these party sounds. Some were recorded from actual parties at Dartmouth, LOL, and then some were just like Foley that I found for free online and I added it in. Additionally, I have a scene where it's outside and the girls' feet are like scuffing on the gravel. I basically got little bits of like wild sound we recorded, which is really just like the sound effects of feet scuffing. We just asked them to scuff their feet a little bit in various ways, and then later I stitched each little part to a different foot movement that was not actually the sound recorded for that video. Literally every sound in that scene, like, I artificially added. After you know, make sure your dialogue is good, you have your like ambient sound and your sound effects, you can add some music. I can mess around with like whether I wanted the music to be diegetic or non-diegetic, like whether it existed in the world of my film or was like background music, like a soundtrack. Every part of this was just super educational and so much work. I don't think I'd ever been that meticulous about a 4-minute project in my life. But yeah, that's just kind of like a rundown really quick of some of the little elements that go into making a short film. I would say that, like, even though the shooting part I think is what people think of when they think of creating a film or a sketch or something or a short, but really it's the pre and post-production that takes so much time, especially the pre, making sure that your story makes sense and that the characters are developed and all of that. And it's crazy how much you can portray in 4 minutes. And I wouldn't say that like my film was amazing by any means. And it's also weird, like it is a weird short and not everyone likes it. If you don't like feet, you're not gonna like it. And like learning to be okay with that was also really interesting and very difficult, because you want everyone to love something that you put so much hard work into, but with art it's just not necessarily like that. Just some quick questions slash answers for my short in particular that I've gotten. The primary one is based off of why I didn't want to show the faces. I only show the feet of my characters in the entire short, and that was just kind of me messing around. I did want to like have like an unconventional way of telling the story physically, and I think that like having just the feet allowed for me to use like the physical space in a certain kind of way. It just pushed me to think of, you know, physical acting in a really different way. And my two friends who I had acting it were both dancers, so that I know that they understood like body movement. I think also, this is like on a different note, but just something that I'm really passionate about is issues of representation, and particularly in race. I thought it'd be interesting to look at what people's implicit assumptions might be about how someone looks, depending upon how they speak and how they act. I think also an element that I love about animation is being able to create empathy with something that is not human. Like, you can watch a short about like a penguin and be so emotionally connected to a penguin. For this assignment we couldn't use animation, we were supposed to use like live action, but a way that I could do that is like kind of taking a disembodied like body part and create that into a character. So it was almost as if like the feet themselves were the characters, and that was again like a weird choice that a lot of people were uncomfortable with, but I thought was really fun and interesting to work with. And then lastly, I've also gotten questions or just like people made comments like, oh, why in the end was this not basically like a romantic relationship between the two girls? For one, I think that there's a lot to be said about having like a really strong friendship between women. It honestly frustrates me so much when so many of the relationships that we see in Hollywood are sexualized, and when it has to be like romantic, and for some reason that's seen as like the ultimate depth of relationship, when really I think that friendship is something that is like so sacred and so beautiful and like so safe, and we're allowed to have friends that are like just as close as like maybe a romantic partner might be, but it's just a completely different kind of love that you have for them. And they don't have to be sisters like Frozen, they don't have to be related for this to be possible. Like you can just have really awesome friendships with people, and like that's enough. Like that's all you need. They're not meeting romantic needs, they're meeting like the friend need, which I think we all have. So those are just kind of some thoughts on like my short that I know I don't normally get to explain to people when they watch. People will just watch, and normally in the film world, like that's your baby, you let them go out and go, and you don't really get to add anything than what is on screen. But since I have a YouTube channel and I can explain if anyone's interested and wants to know, this is kind of like just like another way of sharing what was going on in my head. If the film didn't make sense to you, that's totally okay. I'm not offended. If you did like it and if it did make sense, makes you happy, share it with some friends or something. But yeah, that is all. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of ranty video. I acknowledge that this is not professional by any means. It was very much like done within like 4 weeks at a college, but you can tell stories with very few resources in my opinion, so that was all we were trying to do. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is definitely different kind of content from what I normally post on here, but I thought it'd be nice to just kind of bring a little intersection of what I do at school and what I do on YouTube and share it with you guys. Once again, if you've not subscribed, please feel free to do so. And if you'd like to check me out on Vimeo, feel free to follow me on Vimeo as well. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up or give my short on Vimeo a thumbs up or a like if you liked it. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Love you guys. Jesus loves you, and I'll see you in the next one.